wanting to not be very strong. So if I have to sit down, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it goes. I'll try to speak loud. I know some of you might feel like, why is she talking so loud? But some people have a hearing deficit, and I know I have that female voice, so I try to, if I'm not loud enough, go like this, and I'll try to keep my mouth closer to your ear, okay? So we are in Ezekiel. We're in Lesson 8, Oracles Against the Nations. Okay, good. So there will be no pornography in this lesson, just so you know. The last couple of weeks have been a little racy, but anyway, we're off of that now. We're down to some doom and gloom, though. Notice that this is chapters 25 to 32. That's a big section, but it's not going to take that long. It's not that long of a lesson. Look at what's coming next.
Well, you can recognize that.
Yeah, we'll for sure have to listen to that song. I love that song. But anyway, yeah. So we're getting into if you look at the next lessons, you've got the Valley of Dry Bones, Gog and Magog, Jerusalem restored, a renewed world. So where are we going now after these oracles? We're going into the future, right? Going into the time that's going to come. That's the fun part of Ezekiel that people like to talk about, unlike the parts we did, which everybody doesn't want to talk about because but anyway. So Isaiah and Jeremiah delivered oracles against Judah's surrounding nations. So too does Ezekiel. So he's going to make his oracles against Ammon, Moab, Edom, the Philistines, Tyre, Sidon, and Egypt. I did copy a little outline that the study that I was doing had. So if you'd like an outline of that, that's there by the coffee pot there. You can help yourself. So the kingdom of Israel's at the north. Do you see where it's at? The blue part? Blue part at the north. And at the south is Judah. Do you see Judah? So the colors around them are the ones that are the nations that Ezekiel's going to pronounce judgment or tell judgment against. Ammon, can you find it with your eyes? I couldn't use my pointer. Okay, I'll go ahead and use my pointer. Ammon, Moab, Edom, Philistine, Tyre and Sidon. And you might say, why do they do both Tyre and Sidon? Well, they've got this idea of 7. What does 7 mean in Jewish?
Perfect.
They like that number, complete perfect. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait.
Forgot
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is Egypt. So they got to get to 7. Some scholars say the reason they split Tyre and Sidon was because they needed 7, which makes sense. We saw the different poetry that's being used, and that's part of their balance of trying to make the letters come out right. So when we read it, you'll see why they might have separated it, why he might have separated it, but it's kind of interesting. They're trying to keep the 7. Also, there are, the verses are also balanced. There's 97 verses on one side and 97 verses on the other side. So it's kind of a structure that he was trying to do. So God called Ezekiel to be a prophet on July 31st, 593. And from that point on, Ezekiel focuses on the fate of Jerusalem. Okay? Culminating with a prophecy of Jerusalem's total destruction. We read that, right? That changes now. In chapters 25 to 32, Ezekiel shifts his vision from Jerusalem to the nations surrounding Jerusalem, and he prophesies their destruction as well. How do you think the Jews felt about that? Well, good, they're going to get theirs.
Yeah, they're hurt.
It's kind of like a backhanded encouragement to the Jewish people that these nations that have been allowed to destroy, that God has used to destroy them, they're going to get theirs in the end. It's that kind of a thing. So both Isaiah and Jeremiah had done the same. Indeed, all 3 prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, follow the same basic structural pattern. Oracles of judgment against Jerusalem, judgment against the nations, and then Jerusalem's redemption. So that's the 3 parts we're in. So today we're talking about against the nations, and next week we're going to start into this 3rd part, the redemption. In all three cases, the prophet's audience would have welcomed the oracles against the nations, right? Because the targeted nations were Israel's traditional enemies. They were rightful objects of God's wrath. To those that exiled in Babylon, the judgment against the nations would have been definitely meaningful, right? Because they're off in these foreign lands and they want to see those people be punished. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, let's see here. Ezekiel 28, 24 to 26 is right in the middle. It is the words of hope. There's going to be oracles of judgment against the nations, and then there's going to be oracles against Egypt. There's going to be 97, but this is right in the middle. So this is the one set of good news. It's got three, is it three? Yeah. It's got 3 verses of good news. So we're going to start with the good news today, even though it's right in the middle of the passage. Okay, ready? Ezekiel 28, 24. No longer will the people of Israel have malicious neighbors who are painful briars and sharp thorns. Then they will know that I am the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. When I gather the people of Israel from the nations where they have been scattered, I will be proved holy through them in the sight of the nations. Then they will live in their own land, which I gave to my servant Jacob. They will live there in safety and will build houses and plant vineyards. They will live in safety when I inflict punishment on all their neighbors who maligned them. Then they will know that I am the Lord their God. This is the message of hope. When did it come true? Or maybe I should say, when will it come true? It sort of comes true when they come back in after this captivity, right? It sort of comes true. They do go back into Jerusalem, but they're not a state yet, and they still have trouble with all their enemies surround them. Rome ends up being in charge of them and in charge of the city. And in 70 AD, the Romans destroyed the temple and the stuff that was there. So when did this ever actually happen? When I gather the people of Israel from the nations where they have been scattered, okay, when they came back from captivity, that could be true, right? I will be proved holy through them in the sight of the nations. Then they will live in their own land, which I gave to my servant Jacob. They will live there in safety and will build houses and plant vineyards. They will live in safety when I inflict punishment on all their neighbors who malign them. Then they will know that I am the Lord their God. When they went into King.
47?
I feel like that's happening like right now. The people of Israel are living in their own land, and they are safe from their enemies. They are able to push back their enemies, right? Defend themselves. Now, I will not be someone who ever says something against the Jewish people or the Israelis. Whatever happens with them, happens with them. And I heard a Jewish speaker, talking about his frustration with the Jews not accepting the Messiah. And he was railing on the number of people who were Jewish who had not accepted the Messiah. He said, "You're not Jewish if you don't accept the Messiah." That was his claim. Now, I'm not Jewish. I'm not getting in that because I'm staying away from that stuff. I'm not going to say God is has his hand on those people, and what he does, we just need to watch in awe.
And he's not done yet, and it talks about the remnant, the 144,000, and
He is absolutely not done yet, and I just soon stay out of the way. I just soon live in Welton and watch what happens, because God's hand is a mighty hand. Now, are they a nation now?
Yes.
Have they been gathered from all over? Are they living in safety? They are. They keep getting attacked by everybody all around them, but they've been able to defend themselves.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I feel like this is started to become true earlier. It became really true now, and I think it's even going to be more true in the future. It's going to come. This is one of those things that is just what God is doing with them. So so I'm not saying nothing bad about Israel or the Jewish people or their ability to defend themselves. I'm just watching and seeing what God will do, because it's pretty crazy. But like that one Jewish man was saying, he said, we have too many Jewish people who think they are Jews and they have not accepted the Messiah. And that does not, you're not a Jew if you haven't accepted the Messiah, is what he's saying. And I think that's a very interesting, thought. So you wonder what percentage of the people who are Jewish do accept the Messiah. Does anybody know?
No, but that kind of reminds me of way back when you couldn't be a Jew unless you were circumcised.
Yeah. Okay, so with these three verses, these three verses that I just read, they're the fulcrum. They're like the middle point of this passage. We're going to start on chapter 25, and we're going to go through to chapter 32. We're going to take out pieces of that as samples. Notice that on this fulcrum, there are 97 verses on each side. 97 verses that the oracles against the 6 nations, and then 97 verses against Egypt. And that adds to 7.
Yeah.
The structure of this book is very pleasing to Jewish writers. This is what they liked to do. It was part of like their poetry style. So here are the 7 oracles, 7 nations: Ammon, Moab, Edom, Philistia, Tyre, Sidon, and Egypt. The 7 mini oracles make up the first half, and then the last half is Egypt. Ezekiel presents the 6 oracles in a clockwise fashion, starting with Ammon. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Clockwise. And then where's Egypt? Down here. Okay. Okay. This is Egypt. Notice the cities he's going to name. You'll hear when you read that part, he'll have the parts of the cities. So there's Tanis, Talphanes, Heliopolis, and Memphis. And then look where Jerusalem is. See the red dot? And if you can see the mileage scale, see that little mileage scale there is 200 miles. So if you take that little mileage scale, you put your fingers up there between the red dot and the edge of Egypt, you got about 200 miles, don't you? We often think of Egypt as being way down south, but it's not way down south. It's, 200 miles would be a ways for me.
Closer than Phoenix.
If I was walking, what?
It's closer than Phoenix.
It's closer than Phoenix. That's true. Phoenix is quite a walk, also. But yeah, it's some distance, but not as great a distance as we often think. But Egypt does go all the way down here, right?
Yeah.
So when you think of that, you might think, well, it's way down in this area. So yeah, but the edge there, the place they came from originally, was right up there at the top. So we're going to start with Ammon, and that's in Ezekiel 25, verse 1, the kingdom of Ammon. I don't know, what's the proper way to say it? Anybody know? Is it Ammon or Ammon? I don't know.
Ammon's good.
Yeah, on this stuff that I pronounce, I just make it up. I just try to say it phonetic. And I try to say it the same way every time, just so it sounds the same. But if you want to correct me, you're welcome to, okay?
We gave you that book.
I just made it up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Ezekiel 25, verse 1. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against the Ammonites and prophesy against them. Say to them, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Make sure I'm recording. Because you said, aha, over my sanctuary when it was desecrated, and over the land of Israel when it was laid waste, and over the people of Judah when they went into exile, therefore I'm going to give the people of the east as a possession. Now wait a minute. What was God offended by?
Idols.
That they said, aha, you're getting what you deserve.
Right.
Yeah, so you be careful what you say about Israel. Right? Right? Yeah.
My translation is for aha says good.
Good.
So
Yeah.
there's a good.
Good. Good to see. Yeah. You got to be careful of that.
When you cheered.
They cheered. Let's see. Verse 4. Therefore, I'm going to give you to the people of the east as a possession. They will set up their camps and pitch their tents among you. They will eat your fruit and drink your milk. I will turn Rabbah into a pasture for camels and Ammon into a resting place for sheep. Then you will know that I am the Lord. For this is what the sovereign Lord says. Because you have clapped your hands and stamped your feet, rejoicing with all the malice of your heart against the land of Israel. Therefore I will stretch out my hand against you and give you as plunder to the nations. I will wipe you out from among the nations and exterminate you from the countries. I will destroy you, and you will know that I am the Lord.
So he's talking to Ammon, the country of Ammon?
Yep.
Yeah, do you recognize that from anywhere
Yeah.
else in the scripture?
Watch the news.
I'm thinking, yes, you're absolutely right. It's in the news right now. I'm thinking back in the Bible, back in the old days when we first saw stuff happening. Anybody remember any stories that included Ammonites? And what?
Was it with Jeremiah?
No, well, I don't know. Could be. Could be. I was thinking of Lot.
Oh,
Anybody remember what happened with Lot? Lot was at Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
The whole city was destroyed with fire. He escaped with his 2 daughters and his wife. His wife turned to a pillar of salt because she looked back. Yeah. Well, his daughters are going to be the mothers of Ammonites and Moabites. Okay, so let's look at Genesis 19:30. Okay, Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. One day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there's no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." That night, pardon?
They're promoting incest?
Well, they're not promoting it, but these people are practicing it. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him. He is the father of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him. He is the father of the Ammonites of today.
Wow. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. Do you know any other Bible story that includes Ammonites and Moabites? Who was a Moabitess?
Ruth.
Lord, shocking. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ruth was a Moabitess. That's another angle to that whole story of Ruth, of redemption and coming from what would be ancestrally a very bad place to be, right? But she was a noble character. She was a person that did what was right and what was good. So it doesn't matter that you're a Moabitess, right? If you need to do what's right and what's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Ammonites and the Moabites are the descendants of the incestuous relationship between Lot and his daughters. In the oracle against the Ammonites, Ezekiel says that God is handing the Ammonites over to the people from the east. Now, Ammon is bordered on the north by Aram, by the west by Judah, and south by Moab. Ammon's eastern border is a rugged desert. So who's on the east?
Israel.
It's a land of nomadic Arab tribes who made periodic incursions into the settled areas and the prospered western lands. They were called sons of the east, or Kedemites. After the fall of Jerusalem, the Kedemites would wreak havoc throughout Ammon and Moab. In other words, those Arabs in that land, once they saw what happened with the fall of Jerusalem and the decline of Moab and Ammon, they came in and were picking on Ammon and Moab, those lands. Okay? Who'd have known, huh? So now we're going to look at Moab. We saw Ammon. Now we're going to look at Moab. It's the second one where the white star is at. Starting at Ezekiel 25, verse 8. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Because Moab and Seir said, "Look, Judah has become like all the other nations. Therefore, I will expose the flank of Moab, beginning at its frontier towns, Beth Jeshimoth, Baal Meon, and Kiriathaim, the glory of that land. I will give Moab along with the Ammonites to the people of the east as a possession, so that the Ammonites will not be remembered among the nations, and I will inflict punishment on Moab. Then they will know that I am the Lord." We consider the oracles against Ammon and Moab we have to recall that Ammon and Moab joined the Babylonian invasion of Jerusalem during the first siege. They actually went in that first invasion in Jerusalem and were supporting that. So they were on the wrong side. In 2 Kings 24, it says, during Jehoiakim's reign, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, invaded the land, and Jehoiakim became his vassal for 3 years. But then he turned against Nebuchadnezzar and rebelled. The Lord sent Babylonian, Aramean, Moabite, and Ammonite raiders who put Jerusalem under siege against him to destroy Judah, in accordance with the word of the Lord proclaimed by his servant the prophets. That's where it is in Scripture, that they were a part of the people that attacked Jerusalem. Now, did God make them do it? There's like this weird, conflict in me. If God said they were supposed to do it, then they were being obedient to God, right? No. God used them. He could have stopped them. He could have prevented that. But he let them because they were intending to do evil, and he allowed the evil to happen. And so by his mark, that was his hand, because he could have stopped that, but he didn't stop it. But he's going to make sure they have their consequences. Yeah? Okay, Edom. We're all the way down in Edom now. Anybody remember anything about Edom? I always think of red when I think of Edom.
Were they the country that they had to go around?
You had to go around? Why?
Esau.
Esau. He was known to be red. That's why he's thinking of Edom as being red. So the descendants of Esau.
The ancient red porridge.
Yep. Okay. In Ezekiel 25, verse 12, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Because Edom took revenge on Judah and became very guilty by doing so, therefore this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will stretch out my hand against Edom and kill both man and beast. I will lay it waste, and from Teman to Dedan they will fall by sword. I will take vengeance on Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they will deal with Edom in accordance with my anger and my wrath. They will know my vengeance, declares the sovereign Lord. How many times when we were reading the Old Testament did we hear about how the Edomites were up on the cliffs, up high on the cliffs, and how they were laughing at, jeering at, and being happy for the negative things that happened to the children of Israel? We saw that several times as we were reading through. A very haughty kind of people. They were descended from Jacob's twin brother Esau, right? The Edomites were even closer related to Israelites than were the Ammonites and Moabites. They should have been more supportive. They were more closely related. And it was trouble from the start. When Jacob and Esau were in Rebekah's womb.
They fought.
This is the account of the family line of Abraham's son Isaac. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean from Padan Aram, and sister of Laban, the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. The babies jostled each other within her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. So this struggle started in the womb, and Jacob steals Esau's birthright, tricks him, and Esau vows to kill Jacob. So, and Edom was always celebrating. There's writings in Psalm 137 where Edom was celebrating the destruction of Jerusalem. So ultimately, Ezekiel's oracle is against Edom, the whole kingdom. So God's message to Edom: you took vengeance on Judah and Jerusalem. Prepare for divine vengeance on you. You enjoyed that and you prepared for that, and so now it'll be on you. So, okay. Next is Philistia on the Mediterranean coast. So, doesn't Esau have Ishmael?
Yeah.
So Esau has Ishmael.
No,
No, who has Ishmael?
Abraham had Ishmael.
Ishmael and Jacob, right?
Hagar
Esau
was the
and
mother of
Jacob.
Ishmael.
Okay, we'll go back.
Abraham.
It puzzles me sometimes because
you know, they say the babies are so innocent, but they were fighting before they were born. You know? and you know, you got kids like, I have a daughter that's 2 years older than my other daughter, and they fought like cats and dogs, but I got another set of daughters that are only 20 months and they're like best friends. You know, so you just never know.
You don't know.
With the kids, how they're gonna, and it's like from the time they're little, you know?
Right. Yep. Okay, let's go back. Ishmael and
Isaac was
Isaac.
Jacob's son.
Ishmael and Isaac.
Hagar.
Abraham.
Hagar was the mother of Ishmael.
And the father was
Abraham.
So Abraham's the father. He has Jacob, who we call Israel.
No.
No, he has
Abraham has
Isaac.
Ishmael and then Isaac.
Ishmael and Isaac.
Isaac had,
Jacob.
Isaac had Jacob.
and then he had the 12.
Okay. And there were 12 on that side and 12 on the other side too. Ishmael also had 12. Right?
Yeah, they're still
Okay.
going at it.
Yep, they're still going on. Okay. Ezekiel 25, verse 15. This is what the Lord, sovereign Lord says. Because the Philistines acted in vengeance. Well, wait a minute. I feel like we're not done with that. Because the Ishmael, those are the descendants of the,
Hagar.
no, I know, but he's the one who began the Muslim and that religious tradition. And the other became the Jewish tradition. So that's part of that fighting that you see that has gone on for generations still. That's why you see the Abraham Accords. When they say the Abraham Accords, they're saying you Muslim people, you Jewish people, you're all sons of Abraham. So let's make an agreement that we all can agree on. Right? Is that right? Okay. It's just interesting to me how these animosities come down through history and become such enemies of each other. I'm sorry. Okay. Ezekiel 25. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Because the Philistines acted in vengeance and took revenge with malice in their hearts and with ancient hostility sought to destroy Judah. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am about to stretch out my hand against the Philistines, and I will wipe out the Kerethites and destroy those remaining along the coast. I will carry out great vengeance on them and punish them in my wrath. Then they will know that I am the Lord when I take vengeance on them. So the Philistines dominated the southern coastal plain, controlling the Via Maris, which went along there. And they were big people. Do you remember who was famous for being a Goliath, right? So those were people that were big and strong, known to be strong. So some people, we've read a lot of funny, interesting stories about how they were from the Nephilim and all of that. And we don't really know what the deal was with them. They were big people though. They think they came from, they had a nickname of sea people. We see that in some of the artifacts and the writings that they've had. And they seem to have arrived in Canaan a little bit before the Israelites, not long after the Israelites did, and before them. And the scripture of the Hebrew scripture just calls them other nations. It doesn't call them by anything specifically. Archaeologists think they may be from Crete, from the Isle of Crete. We have found artifacts of the people. So that's a skull. And this is from Sherry Fox from Arizona State University. It's a 3,000-year-old skull, Philistine skull, discovered on the excavation site in Ashkelon. So that's where they were at. That was one of their major cities. And this is an actual skull. Look how big it is compared to her.
Good teeth.
The other thing that's surprising about it is the teeth. That's what they're saying. Look how perfect the teeth are.
Yeah.
They're not crooked and not missing. So,
Are there more than us?
It looks like more.
well, it looks like more.
Looks like they had no teeth.
So this is a unique thing. So is it a whole nother type of human being, or is it just this particular race of people? So Crete has the same kind of burial places. And that's why the link, they think, because Crete, they found on the island of Crete the same kind of artifacts and the same kind of burial places. There are oval-shaped graves, and the artifacts Within them are Philistine, not Canaanite. So that's why they're thinking they might be from Crete. Let's see. 99% of what we thought we knew about the Philistines must now either be completely ignored or revised. Because they're finding more and more artifacts. Okay, go ahead. Say it loud.
The Philistines are all dead. In 70 AD, or right about there, Rome renamed Israel Palestine after the Philistines.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
There's no Palestinians by lineage. It's just something they designated. Right around Yasser Arafat, he said, we're the Palestinians. So
Oh.
it's just
Listings, really.
Interesting. Okay, so here's the Philistine territory. They control the Via Maris. They have their 5 fortified cities, Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. And they were one of Israel's most formidable enemies. You remember the story of David defeating the Philistine giant Goliath. David had a complex relationship with the Philistines. You remember what he did? He pretended he was on one side for both sides. What do you call that? Like a mercenary. He was playing both sides. When Saul was going after David to kill him, David tried to stay out of Saul's way and not fight against Saul, right? But in order to do that, he was pushed into Philistine land. So he talked to the Philistines like he was their best buds. And we read several times where David was getting caught in the middle. He was actually fighting against the Philistines, but he tried to look like he was. So it was a difficult time for him. We read through that before. So there's that story. He was a double agent basically, and he kept feeding information to Saul's son Jonathan, so that they could fight against the Philistines. So, and then he would go out and say he was going out to fight against King Saul, but he would actually attack the Philistine guys. So he was kind of a double agent there. When Saul died, his sons were at the Battle of Mount Gilboa. David became king and forged a united monarchy out of the 12 tribes. As king, David, he had some very trusted warriors who served on his personal bodyguard, who were Kerethites and Pelethites. Both of those are Philistine groups. So it appears that David's 2 top soldier guys were some mix of Philistine. They were tough and loyal. Benaiah, a son of Jehoiada. Nonetheless, as King David turned on the Philistines, defeated them in 2 decisive battles in the Valley of Rephaim. So David finished. He no longer was known as a hero for the Philistines because they found him out. Okay, so now we move up the coast. We go from the Philistines up to the Phoenician states, and we're going to go up to Tyre and Sidon up there. Tyre and Sidon. Tyre is a city in Lebanon today. It's a deep water port. That's why it was so wonderful for shipping and stuff in that day, because it has a deep water port. When David became king and took control of the 3 major trade routes, he made a treaty with Hiram. Remember Hiram? And king of Tyre, who controlled the maritime routes in the Mediterranean. Solomon reinforced those treaties. He married the Pharaoh's daughter, which was for food production in Egypt. He married her. And then he had married the lady from Tyre. No, he had the relationship with the king of Tyre and married one of his daughters. So he was, he had 1,000 wives, He just married everybody he wanted to do trade with. So anyway, so Tyre was a very important part of the economy of the whole region. Commercial trade in the deep water port of Tyre was one of 3 critical elements in Israel's economy. When the Assyrian Empire fell to the Babylonians at the Battle of Carchemish, remember the Battle of Carchemish? Tyre capitulated to Nebuchadnezzar. However, in the lead up to the siege of Jerusalem, Tyre joined the alliance of nations that sought aid from Egypt. So as a consequence, Nebuchadnezzar laid siege to Tyre, a siege that dragged on for 13 years and ultimately failed. But it crippled Tyre, so it was economically hurt by that 13-year siege. Tyre was consisted of the old city on the mainland and what is now Lebanon, and the fortified port island just off the coast. So you have Tyre, and then you have the port island off the coast. I'll show you a picture of that in a moment. In 332 BC, Alexander arrived at the gates of Tyre. He wanted to sacrifice at the island's most ancient, one of the temples there, but the city refused him, telling Alexander to sacrifice at one of the newer temples in the old Tyre area that wasn't off on the island. So Tyre, and that island had never been conquered. Even after that 13-year siege of Nebuchadnezzar, they could not get the island. So they were going to let Alexander the Great come on to supposedly offer a sacrifice. So Alexander completely destroyed the old city and took all the rubble from the old city and built a causeway to go to the island so that he could have land that went to the island. And his army marched across the rubble, and they conquered the whole thing. It was taken within 9 months. They were able to take it that way. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar, 13 years, didn't get over. But Alexander the Great just built himself a road. So here's a picture of the sarcophagus of Alexander the Great with carved marble. You can see his images on there. And this is a picture of a map showing what the causeway was. It connected the mainland to the island. And the red line was kind of like a wall or a causeway there. The red line around the edge is a wall. They had built a wall all around the island, so you couldn't go by sea, right? But the causeway is there where he actually put the rubble and came over on land to the island. So, and this is it now. If you look on Google Earth, this shows you what it looks like now. So with time, they filled in that causeway. It's become, just part of the mainland. It's not really even separate now.
So, but it was water?
Yeah. It was water right through here. Here. This is all water. And he built the causeway that went across, and then with time, they just filled it in. You can see the shallowness. See the shallow land?
Yeah, it's not too deep there.
But the wall around an island would keep you from being able to get up on the island, right? So anyway, they thought they were impregnable. Okay, so Ezekiel 28, verse 1. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre, this is what the sovereign Lord says. In the pride of your heart you say, I am a god, I sit on the throne of a god, in the heart of the seas. But you are a mere mortal, and not a god, though you think you are as wise as a god. Are you wiser than Daniel? Is no secret hidden from you? Now wait a minute. Who's writing this? Ezekiel, and he's mentioning
Daniel,
Where's Daniel?
in captivity also.
He's in captivity. So, and he's saying to them, do you think you're wiser than Daniel? He's saying that to Tyre. So that means the people in Tyre knew who Daniel was too, right? Not only did Ezekiel know, because we saw how prominent Daniel had become as he was in that land. I just think that's kind of interesting that they would say, are you wiser than Daniel? Is no secret hidden from you? By your wisdom and understanding you have gained wealth for yourself and amassed gold and silver in your treasuries. But your great skill in trading you have increased your wealth. And because of your wealth, your heart has grown proud. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Because you think you are wise as a god, I'm going to bring foreigners against you, the most ruthless of nations. They will draw their swords against your beauty and wisdom and pierce your shining splendor. They will bring you down to the pit, and you will be a violent death in the heart of the seas. Will you then say, I am a god, in the presence of those who kill you? You will be but a mortal, and not a god, in the hands of those who slay you. You will die in the death of the uncircumcised at the hands of foreigners. I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. So after a 13-year siege by Nebuchadnezzar didn't work, the city was bankrupt, and Alexander was able to take it later. So 22 miles up the coast, we have Sidon. 22 miles up the coast. See where Sidon is? Now Tyre had that whole island thing going on. Sidon doesn't have the whole island thing going on. So what is important in our story about Sidon? Let's see. Chapter 28, verse 20. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against Sidon. Prophesy against her and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, Sidon, and among you I will display my glory. You will know that I am the Lord when I inflict punishment on you, and within you am proved to be holy. I will send a plague upon you and make blood flow in your streets. The slain will fall within you, and the sword against you on every side. Then you will know that I am the Lord. No longer will the people of Israel have malicious neighbors who are painful briars and sharp thorns. Then they will know that I am the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. When I gather the people of Israel from the nations where they have been scattered, I will be proved holy through them in the sight of the nations. Then they will live in their own land, which I gave to my servant Jacob. They will live there in safety and will build houses and plant vineyards. They will live in safety when I inflict punishment on all their neighbors who maligned them. Then they will know that I am the Lord their God. So the Sidon whole thing seems kind of weird because you think, well, that's kind of a short thing to say. Why? It's not like they were that big a deal or so prominent. That's why some people think he just put them in there to get to 7. Because they were having trouble. But other scholars say no. The key with that is that the Ashtoreth, the goddess Ashtoreth, was a Sidonian god. We saw that in 1 Kings 11. And that worship infiltrated into Jerusalem and became a real problem, Ashtoreth. Remember when we saw when Ezekiel went and saw inside the sanctuary and they saw an Ashtoreth pole? You know, that whole idol worship stuff. Sexual worship is actually what that was. But so that might be because Sidon, that was such an abhorrent thing from God's point of view. So that could be why. Or you could just say he wanted to make 7. I don't know. So we now make a big turn and we focus on Egypt. As the first half of the oracles against the nations address 6 nations, Ezekiel addresses 2 oracles against Ammon for a total of 7 oracles. So the second half of the oracles against the nations addresses Egypt in 7 separate oracles, mirroring exactly the 97 verses in the first half. We're not going to read all those verses. So here's our organization. You can see 97 on one side and then 97 on Egypt, and then that center one, which was the encouraging news. Ezekiel, like Jeremiah, seems more interested in Egypt than any other nation. Egypt did play a major role on the international stage, but not only in Babylonian times, but throughout Scripture, because that's where the people were from. So maybe that's why Ezekiel likes to work on Egypt. Maybe he feels, that's just a main country. There's a long history with Egypt. When Abraham and Sarah arrived in the land of Canaan, they went back in Genesis 12. They quickly left for Egypt because of a famine. They pawned off Sarah to the Pharaoh as his sister, and Abraham left Egypt with great wealth, along with an Egyptian servant girl, Hagar. And Abraham would father his firstborn son, here we go. Abraham would father his firstborn son, Ishmael, with Hagar, and nothing but trouble would follow to this very day. Abraham's son, Isaac, had Jacob. Jacob had 12 boys, who were the 12 tribes, and Ishmael had the 12 sons, one of which was the ancestor of Mohammed. So that's where we get the angst between them. I got confused. I was thinking of that back on the other story. So Jacob's son Joseph would make his way to Egypt as a slave, but once there he would rise to the position of Grand Vizier, second only to Pharaoh himself. Ultimately, Joseph's entire family relocates to Egypt, where over a period of 400 years, they multiply from an extended family of 70 to a nation of nearly 2 million. In an ironic twist, as Joseph entered Egypt as a slave, so the nation spawned by Jacob leaves Egypt as slaves. The exodus from Egypt, of course, plays a major role in the story, with God slamming Egypt with 10 increasingly severe plagues, and Moses leading the people out of Egypt and reaffirming God's covenant with Abraham at Mount Sinai. In a very important sense, Egypt was an incubator for Israel's development into a nation. Any family immigrating into a dominant culture would assimilate into that culture within 3 generations. But slaves don't assimilate. In Egypt, the Israelites achieved critical mass and they retained their identity. They sure picked up a bunch of gods, though. A bunch of other gods, didn't they? Solomon marries Pharaoh's daughter, enabling him to vertically integrate the Israelite economy and acquire great wealth. Egypt provides political asylum to Jeroboam, who upon Solomon's death leads the 10 northern tribes into a civil war with Judah and Jerusalem, splitting David's united monarchy into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. Egypt marches north to assist the Assyrian Empire fight off Babylon. And along the way, King Josiah is killed by the Egyptians at the Battle of Megiddo in 609 BC, setting the stage for Babylonian conquest of Judah and Jerusalem in 586 BC. So it's kind of like Egypt has been working with them through history at different times. And at just the broader speed of history in our story, Egypt is always present, sometimes standing in the shadows, other times standing in the spotlight, but always on the stage. Where did Mary and Joseph flee with baby Jesus? Ezekiel, a prophet in exile, has a clear sense of God's plan for Israel and for Jerusalem in particular. King Zedekiah tries to thwart through Babylon by forming an alliance with Egypt and the surrounding nations. And it almost works. The Egyptians even march up to relieve Jerusalem in Nebuchadnezzar's first siege. But at the last minute, they are turned back by Babylonian forces. So are Egyptians enemies or friends?
Depends.
They, like the other countries, God used them to do what he needed to get done. He protected his people. They came out of there with all those other gods out of there, that, idols and stuff, which was a pain. But it was a way for him to keep his people whole. So to Ezekiel, Babylon is God's instrument for punishing the disobedient. Ezekiel views any attempt at stopping God's hand as undermining God's sovereignty. Consequently, when God finishes dealing with Israel, he will turn his wrath on the surrounding nations, whose political and military actions ran contrary to God's will. Egypt, first among those nations and a major player in the story, is going to fall hard. Here's a sample of the oracles against Egypt. Ezekiel chapter 30, verse 1. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, prophesy and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Wail and say, alas for that day, for the day is near, the day of the Lord is near, a day of clouds, a time of doom for the nations. A sword will come against Egypt, and anguish will come upon Cush. When the slain fall in Egypt, her wealth will be carried away, and her foundations torn down. Cush and Libya, Lydia, and all Arabia, Cub and the people of the covenant land will fall by the sword along with Egypt. This is what the Lord says. The allies of Egypt will fall, and her proud strength will fail. From Migdol to Aswan, they will fall by the sword within her, declares the sovereign Lord. They will be desolate among desolate lands, and their cities will lie among ruins. Then they will know that I am the Lord. When I set fire to Egypt and all her helpers are crushed, on that day messengers will go out from me in ships to frighten Cush out of her complacency. Anguish will take hold of them on the day of Egypt's doom, for it is sure to come. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I will put an end to the hordes of Egypt by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. So the point is, Egypt was first among the nations that will be the object of God's furious wrath. He's going to take care of Egypt. He's going to punish Egypt. When we look at our fulcrum, he spends 97 verses telling you the judgment that's going to come on Egypt. So if you want to know more, there's all these verses for you to read. About what it's about. There's a lot of them. So I would like to go back to, if you don't mind, I would like to go back to the words of hope. Ezekiel 28, 24 to 26. No longer will the people of Israel have malicious neighbors who are painful briars and sharp thorns. Then they will know that I am the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. When I gather the people of Israel from the nations where they have been scattered, I will be proved holy through them in the sight of the nations. Then they will live in their own land, which I gave to my servant Jacob. They will live there in safety and will build houses and plant vineyards. They will live in safety when I inflict punishment on all their neighbors who maligned them. Then they will know that I am the Lord their God. Ezekiel says, when I gather Israel 9 times. One time it's mentioned in Nehemiah, one time it's mentioned in Zechariah. So the gathering of Israel proved the Israelis are set apart from other nations. He didn't say he's gathering those other nations. He's gathering the nation of Israel. There's an interesting passage in Zechariah 10. I will signal for them and gather them in. Surely I will redeem them. They will be as numerous as before. Though I scatter them from among the peoples, yet in distant lands they will remember me. They and their children will survive, and they will return. I will bring them back from Egypt and gather them from Assyria. I will bring them to Gilead and Lebanon, and there will not be enough room for them. True? How many times has it been true? How many times have they gathered back to Israel? Well, this time of Ezekiel, when they've been scattered, right, that we're talking about now, they're going to come back to Israel. But is it a city?
It's a nation. Now.
It's a nation.
Now.
They'll be gathered from distant lands, and I will bring them back from Egypt, which they tried to go to, and from Assyria. And there's going to be so many people there won't be room for them. That wasn't quite fulfilled at that time, right? Let's look at some of the other prophecy. Nehemiah. Remember the instruction you gave your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my commands, then even if your exiled people are at the farthest horizon, I will gather them from there and bring them to the place I have chosen as a dwelling for my name. So then the question would be, because it says, remember the instructions, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you. If you are unfaithful. Yes, friend.
A couple of 100 years before Jesus, the Maccabees kind of did some really good stuff for Israel. They brought them together, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. And were destroyed by Rome.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that period, but I kind of studied it last.
So it keeps happening, right? It seems like it keeps happening in history with the Jewish people. They keep gathering together. What's unique about the Israel today? What's unique? Was Israel a nation in when they came back from being cast out? No.
May 1948.
Were they a nation when when Rome was ruling? The Maccabees came after that when Rome was ruling.
Just a group of people.
Yeah, they weren't a nation. They became a nation in 1948.
Yeah.
So that's unique. So when we read this, is this prophecy or is this history? Don't answer. Don't answer, because you'll be wrong either way, right? Right? Let's read more. Here's Psalms 105. He remembers his covenant forever, the promise he made for 1,000 generations, the covenant he made with Abraham, the oath he swore to Isaac. He confirmed it to Jacob as a decree, to Israel as an everlasting covenant. To you I will give the land of Canaan as the portion you will inherit. Yeah, you won't find me being involved in anything to do anything with that land of Canaan. Those Jewish people can have that, and I am staying out of that, right?
Right.
I don't want to be a part of any kind of movement that goes to try to take away the land of Israel from the Jews. No, thank you. That's a losing battle right there. I don't know what God's going to do, but I don't want to be around.
His covenants are forever.
Yes,
And
they
you
are.
don't wanna
He
go
says
against that
it's an
covenant.
everlasting covenant, the land of Canaan. What about Hosea? For the Israelites will live many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred stones, without ephod or household gods. Afterward, the Israelites will return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. They will come trembling to the Lord and to his blessings in the last days. Now, David was dead a long time ago. So what does it mean by David their king?
Line of David.
The seed.
The seed, the Messiah. That's what and that's where that Jewish scholar that I heard on YouTube, that's what he was talking about. He was saying, he was Jewish. He said, and he's talking to Jewish people. He said, you're not Jewish if you have not accepted the Messiah that our God sent to us. And that's kind of dancing around this point here, right? Seek the Lord their God and David their king.
Christ their king.
Yeah, that's the problem. So there may be many Christian Jewish people. There may be none. I don't know how many there are. All I know is I'm just gonna do my thing here. Because that is a really messy situation, isn't it, that they're in? And can get confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't envy that at all. And I don't wanna ever do anything that's against the land, Israel or Jerusalem.
No.
Because I don't wanna be one of the other nations,
Right.
right? I don't wanna be in any one of those other nations and face those kinds of consequences. Yeah. Anybody have anything they wanna add?
Yeah, you also, you wanna bless them, and you don't wanna curse them. So both of those things are in Genesis 12, 1 through 3.
But I feel like that's in general, right? Like, your blessings will, come to you in a sense. If you're bashing someone, it's like something that like reciprocates. I don't know, I feel like it's just in general too, not just in like.
It's a general idea.
It's always good
Yeah.
to bless.
Yeah. So next week, dry bones, dry bones. Next week we do dry bones.